what's your history with Premier Vision now that you're the president?
Say again?
What's your history with Premier Vision?
Well, I started doing a line with a young Italian guy at the time producing a line we did in Japan called Uncle Kimono. And we started really at the end of 2001. And so the first fair I came to was in February, I think, 2002. And I've come to most of them since then. There was a break between the first line kind of company I did, Uncle Kimono, and Techno Bohemian 2 or 3 years. So I didn't come then, but then pretty much every other time, unless I'm shooting or I just can't come because I'm normally, if I don't come, it means I'm doing a play, doing something live on stage or directing a play or something.
What were you doing in New York last June? You were shooting in New York, right?
Lately, I shot, I was shooting a film of Louis C.K., the comic and actor, director, writer, a film called I Love You, Daddy, which Louis wrote, directed, starred in, produced, edited, did everything. And I was just in Toronto last week for the premiere of that at the film festival in Toronto.
So what was it like being a president here? You're a great president, by the way.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. I always have really liked to come to Première Vision and to Premiere Vision, and it's one of my favorite things, and it was very interesting to meet other people in the field, which I don't do that often, really, because when I come here, I'm always super busy, so unless it's someone I have a meeting with to talk about something specific, generally I'm just running around like a maniac picking fabrics every time. So it was nice to get a first-hand look at kind of what's out there this year and what people like, because I think we all had, I can't remember if we had 6 or 8 of our little stickers, I think, to say we like this fabric. And I was very interested just to see what people like, what appealed to them. And it's something I really don't, I kind of do everything myself, so I don't get to share that much with others. I mean, Angelo Tarlazzi I work with, we work together on my line, and he's my associate. So, but we have a tendency more to discuss production and not that much to discuss fabric, not so much.
So how did you go from acting, directing to designing? How did you make that? I mean, you do it all at the same time, I know.
I had costumed. I mean, I'd studied costuming, and I had costumed a lot before, and I'd worked a lot in fashion with either. I wrote and directed 3 fashion films for my friend Bella Freud over the years, and I worked as a model for Comme des Garçons, for Prada, for lots of different people over the years. And it's something that always had interested me. And then this young Italian guy who actually worked for a fabric company called Fedora, quite a successful one at that time, asked me if I would do a men's line. And I thought about it a lot because I knew a lot of designers. I knew it was actually, unlike the sort of superfluous, sort of vainglorious thing that people often think it is. It's in fact a lot of work, and I kind of knew that, so I was quite hesitant, and maybe I should have stayed hesitant. Certainly my success may indicate that. But it's something that interested me, and I've liked doing it. I've learned a lot, and as a long time admirer of design, not just fashion, but of fashion design, and probably most especially fabric design. I've really liked doing it, and I got started because somebody asked me.
And did you ever create any of the textiles at the manufacturer?
I haven't really created textiles. There are so many great fabric designers out there that I don't even have time to see them. I've done prints for my line. I pretty much draw all the scarves and all that stuff. Yeah, I've done that for years, my drawings. But and some prints. But outside of my line, I only once designed a print for Liberty of London, which was a great, probably the big honor of my entire career doing anything, I guess.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it was, yeah. But you know, that also kind of requires a technical background that I'll never have. And there are so many great suppliers here. The people I use that I love, Liria, Riccieri, who's won the grand prize, I think maybe more than once, both in Prato, strangely enough. Warp and Weft, which I love also in Prato. Marini, Cecconi, Sandrio, which is a kind of more moderately priced one. MTVV, a lot of the Japanese I use, Chigasaki, Tokiseni. There are such great suppliers that really wouldn't, I don't think I can come up with something they haven't already come up with a much better version of.
Well, you were certainly a great choice as president. You're really knowledgeable on textiles.
I have a background, and I've been lucky and worked with really good people and learned a lot. And you know, it's something I'm a fabric collector, so it's something that really I like doing, that really interests me. And so for me, something like this is really much more a delight than a chore.
That's great. And of course, since I have a fashion film festival, I want to talk to you about when you directed the films.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did. I have no idea why. I never asked, but years ago, in the late '90s, a friend of mine called me who worked. He's passed away now. Hercules Belleville, an English guy who worked with the English producer Jeremy Thomas. Hercules called me and said that a designer, an English designer called Bella Freud, wanted me to direct a fashion film for her, which she wanted to do that instead of a défilé. And I had met Bella only once. We were in Spain with a bunch of people one night at dinner. And I knew her, so I knew Bella only super vaguely, but I knew her work a little more, which I liked and thought she was very talented. So we met up in Paris where I was shooting a movie, and she described to me kind of what she wanted to do, what she was, the notion of that collection was going to be based on this woman who was a lesbian. I think she was called Jo Carstairs, maybe, or Carstairs, or something like that. I forget if she was English or American. She had a very strange, varied life. She was an ambulance driver in the First World War. She had an affair with Marlene Dietrich. She had her own island called Whale Cay in the Caribbean, very, very fascinating thing. So I got sort of what Bella was doing and what it was based on, but I couldn't really make a movie out of that. It was much too involved and complicated. So I had read this story in Esquire magazine many years before, which used to have the Dubious Achievement Awards, Esquire magazine, which were quite funny when I was a kid growing up. And there was an article one year on Dubious Achievement Awards about this Japanese man who was very worried about tsunami, and so he invented his own rubber underpants, which would expand to 30 times their size in case of a tsunami if he was hit by, the big wave. And he was on a subway in Tokyo, and they accidentally went off, which kind of injured people, and et cetera, et cetera. So we kind of took that idea and adapted that into our first film, which was called Strap Hangers. Then I took the idea of some English trust fund girls I know who are great old friends of mine and all that, and who are hilarious and funny and all that stuff, but are kind of super piggish, who sort of go through the grocery store always grazing and always, here's some yogurt, I'll eat that, here's some, here's a raisin thing, So our second film was really that, based on my experience with them, which was called Lady Behave, which was a woman's sort of etiquette school for just kind of how to be and how not to be a pig. And the third one was called Hideous Man, which was kind of beatnik chicks who take as their kind of anti-hero a character called the Hideous Man, who does quite... Actually, it's a friend of mine, Gary Sinise, an actor, who did an album of that name, and we used his sort of chanted songs. So the beatnik chicks rehearse his poetry with titles like Small Dying Bird and Hideous Man and et cetera, et cetera. I had a dream about Lauren Green. They rehearse for a kind of homage evening, but unfortunately the film ends tragically because he's killed the Hideous Man in a trash compactor. So he doesn't make it to his evening. So I did those films with Bella, kind of late 90s, early 2000s, and I loved it. They're all short, I think maybe 7 minutes, 11 minutes, 17 minutes, the three films, and I love working with her. She's a fantastic collaborator and very bright and funny, and it was really, I say she's maybe, if not the, one of my favorite collaborators, because you take this thing which is in one form and you kind of make it a whole other story, but hopefully that's sort of like that last collection where we did Hideous Man from. She was very influenced by sort of protests, whatever form of protest about whatever. So she kind of showed me her drawings and photos, said we did this with everything. And I kind of then turned it around and said, okay, how I would do that is in this form. So hopefully that showed, like for instance, the Lady Behave one in the etiquette school was actually kind of super elegant, very girlish collection, which I loved, which I thought was just beautiful. And so I think the film kind of reflected these sort of piggishly behaved girls becoming sort of really quite elegant and beautiful and kind of serene. We had often some quite known models in them, some people who became quite known after. We had actresses, we had people who just had been models who later became actors. But for me, it just sort of reconfirmed to me that anybody can be an actor. I mean, you don't, no training, forget it, you don't need it at all. You need to be kind of framed correctly, and you need to be made comfortable and allowed to be confident, even if you're reframed or changed or corrected, say. You still have to be okay with what you're doing and get it. And I love doing those. They were, I mean, if somebody ever asked me, am I like any of my work, I certainly would say I'm absolutely not like any of my work at all, except those three things. They're very reflective of not even just what Bella and I did together, but they're actually very reflective of who I am and what is my view on the world. As childish and inconsequential as that may be, so what? That's how I am. I can't help it. I worked with the great Italian director Bernardo Bertolucci once upon a time, long ago. And he, after working with me for a few, I think it only didn't take him very long, a few days, he said, what I really should do is lead a frivolution, was his phrase, which I think is kind of alarmingly accurate, and he very quickly arrived at that notion. And I think that's not untrue. So for me, the work on those films was among the most interesting stuff I think I ever did creatively.
And where can we see them? I'd love to screen them at my festival.
Yeah, you'd have to get in touch with Bella, which if I get your contacts, I can put you in contact with her. She probably is here tomorrow. I'll try and call her. I don't know if you're staying around, but she may be here tomorrow. But you can look at the films at any rate on Bella Freud's site, which I think is just bellafreud.com. She's made three others after, but ours are called Strap Hangers, Lady Behave, and Hideous Man. Yeah. And Hideous Man also is very pretty. It's black and white, shot by somebody who's become quite a known cinematographer now, called Jess Hall. Really nice, with some funny performances and very pretty and strange.
Thank you.